You remember that famous line from John Piper in his missions book, Let the Nations Be Glad? He begins the book by saying, missions exist because worship doesn't. Worship is ultimate. Missions is not the ultimate goal of the church. Worship is. There are no more mission trips in heaven. So mission cannot be ultimate. Worship is ultimate. We engage in mission because there are millions and billions who have not heard of Christ, have not bowed the knee to Christ, and are not yet worshiping Christ. That motivates the mission. Our worship of this Christ and our desire to see the multitudes know and worship this Christ. So when we think about corporate worship, what we're doing here together Sunday after Sunday, yes, it's true. We may have other aims. We may want to accomplish certain things. I gave you a long list of announcements. I barely have a sermon left after all those announcements. So is that the point, to get information across? Well, we do that. Do we gather because we need to fundraise? We need to tell you about things that the church needs money for. Well, giving is an act of generous worship. Are we here so we can edify the saints? Yes, we want to do that. Are we here so that we might evangelize anyone here who doesn't know Christ and present to them the saving news of the gospel? Yes, we want to do that. There's lots of things we want to do on Sunday. But don't think that corporate worship is ultimately a means to some other end. No, this is the end. Worship is what we will be doing for all eternity. Now, it's worship in heaven, very broadly conceived. You say, well, I don't even particularly like singing very much. Well, there'll be other ways you'll be able to worship God besides singing. And you know what? Maybe you'll learn to like singing when you get to heaven. Worship is what we were made for. Worship is what the triune God deserves. Worship is our goal, our aim, our privilege, and our end. So that's the answer to the first question. What is the church's commitment? Our commitment is to be a people who worship. And I sense that about all of us, and I hope and pray that it only continues to grow, that we love to come together and sing and pray and hear God's word preached morning and evening. We love to come together to do it. And that children in our congregation who sometimes must be dragged along, and husbands who sometimes have to be dragged along, and parents perhaps who have to be dragged, that we would find growing within us a desire, not just, well, I ought to be here and I have to be here, and this is what good people do in Charlotte on Sunday. I want to be here. That the climax of your week would not be Friday night in the movie you get to see. It would not be scampering out of here because then you get to watch some football. It would be this opportunity we have to bow before the risen Christ and worship him. Every Sunday is a resurrection Sunday where we celebrate that the tomb is still empty and Christ is still king.